Today I am here at Frontier Park in Denison, Texas, and actually we're going to go to the business right across the street. Cindy Albert, who is a financial advisor, and we're going to see what it is she offers our community and how she can help you with your business. Good afternoon. I'm here with Cindy Albert and her daughter Casandra. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we're at Cindy Albert's Tax and Financial Business Services.
Correct.
Wow. So that's a big name, but it encompasses a lot of different things that you do.
Yes. We do business taxes, which would be the LLC, S Corps, corporations. We also do personal tax returns.
Okay.
A lot of our LLCs and the S Corps kick out K1s that flow through the personal. So if we do those, we usually do the personal so we can maximize their benefits between the two tax returns. We also do company financials. And with the banking institutions the way they are now, they've even heightened what they accept for financials and everything else because of the banks. A few of the banks started to go under again.
Right.
So they have really tightened down their screws. So we can provide that information to the banks and work with the banks for you to help so that we do your financials on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And they are correct, and that the banks and the mortgage companies will accept that. It's a little harder to get a home loan, even for businesses, that people that owns LLCs and S Corps, because they don't have a steady type paycheck sometimes.
Right.
And so the bank has really insisted on not only seeing the bank statements, which that hadn't come about till lately,
Yes.
but they want the financials definitely,
Yes.
but they've also requiring the bank statements. So in that case, your bank statements are gonna have to match what your financials are
Yes.
saying. So it's a little more than the common person who's trying to just run a business and figure out their deal.
Yes.
So
And I've run into that because I do have clients that use bank statement loans because they own their own business.
correct.
And then when things don't match, then it causes all kinds of problems.
It does. In fact, they've gotten so strict, they wanted us to change one word in a letter, and I changed the word to where it says. I said, well, it has to be completely reworded because now it looks like somebody forged it because
Right.
they just went in and changed that. So that's how picky they are
Yes.
getting. So we can help them in that situation. We can also, I have some other people I deal with. I have an investment guy that is out of the Metroplex. He's super good, and I can recommend that. So if they're to the point where they need to start looking for their future, because if you're an LLC or S Corp, sometimes you're not paying enough into that Social Security, and who knows what's going to happen there.
Yes.
This way you can control your own destiny.
Right.
And we get you set up, and even if you're just a sole proprietorship, we may lead you towards setting up an LLC and S Corp so you can control your own money and not have to rely on the government when you retire.
Right.
And we will connect up with the financial advisors that will, once I direct them towards this, then I hand it over to the financial people, and they will sit down and set goals for people, and they will be able to control their own future instead of relying on the government to control it for
Like
them.
financial planning.
Yes.
They can steer them towards all the stocks or bonds or anything that they may deem a good investment at that point in time.
Right.
So that way they can take that money and they're saving a little bit with that Social Security and Medicare, and then you can turn around and potentially grow it to something larger than what you would get at just a normal retirement through the Social Security funds through the government, because that usually doesn't increase a whole lot year after year.
Right.
It's very little money by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So it allows you a little bit of that flexibility. And so once you get to that point where you have the flexibility and extra cash flow, then we send them off to a financial advisor who can, their day to day is knowing stock markets and what to invest in and what to steer that through that's best for them based on how they're wanting to grow.
This This way it gives you a chance of not only making money, you're going to have your money work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
When you get,
To help grow.
and that's
your
what we
portfolio.
want. We just don't want, sometimes we get young ones in here and I give them a speech. And I say, I don't want to see you as,
Right.
an older person having to be
Right. Not
greeting at somebody's door. Let's set you up so that you can control your own future, but you're going to have to be strict in this because now you're not maybe going to contribute as much to the Social Security system, but you're going to guide it. So you can't just, we don't want them to just go out and blow their money.
Right.
We want them to make it work for them.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm starting a new business or I have a business and I need to, find a way to do better on my taxes. Like, okay, so I have a lot of clients, they own their own business, they go to buy a house, and the lender says they don't make any money. They're, because they're not paying themselves
Correct.
very much money, and it's all going as saying it's expenses, right? Or however you do that.
Correct.
So, then would you be able to direct me, like, so that I would be able to show enough profit that I'm not paying exorbitant taxes, that I would be able to buy a property? Would that be two different goals?
It could be what we could look down and the financials we give you. Of course, your income's going to be 100%. Then it sets down, it breaks down what you're spending percentage-wise to that 100% on wages, supplies, whatever. We could give you a good guideline of where you need to cut back. So at the end of the year. And unfortunately, in the way things are being done, that you probably will have to pay in some taxes in order to get that income up.
Right?
You're right. But our goal is in the process of doing that and you're making money, you're going to turn around and the financial advisors, because I get to that point and then I hand it to them.
Yes.
They'll be able to give you the best way to take your money and invest it with the lowest amount of taxes
Okay.
that would
Right.
derive from
Right.
that. And that gets into their wheelhouse instead
Right.
of ours. But yes, that would just be, if you're going to want to show more income, then you're going to have to show less expenses.
Right.
And there's not a lot of ways. It's kind of a catch-22 there.
Yeah.
It all depends on if you want credit or not
Yes.
there. So, but we can, show them where they need to cut back at, whatever it might be, so that will help them. And usually with the way the loans are going now, they're going back to at least 2 years on your financials.
Yes.
So if you're just starting a business, you're going to have to keep that in mind. What am I going to want to do? Because you can get, one good way of showing less income would be to reinvest in the business, like buying equipment,
Right.
assets,
Okay.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
Some of the institutions will add that back in
Right.
to what your bottom line is. They'll say, okay, you didn't have to do this, so we'll add that and say that was income. Or sometimes if you have knowledge and stuff, they'll add that back to your income. But each institution is
Yes.
different. It's never the same.
Yes.
So if if you have somebody that you'd like us to work with, then we can kind of help and see what they can add back in to
Yeah.
help you and not.
Yeah.
We can also work with your institutions. So,
And another big thing is not commingling your business account and your personal expenses.
That's
Yes.
really
Because
hard. As a
That I see that
business owner, it's hard.
crossover a lot, and we're like, because especially if you have somebody outside doing your bookkeeping, if you have a Walmart expense on there, was that a business or a personal? So you either might not be getting the expenses you should based on your bookkeeper, or you might be putting expenses on there that truly weren't
Right.
into the business, and that can affect the bottom line if you're showing no money but you're commingling it out of one account. That could potentially be where some of that's coming from.
right.
The biggest thing is separate accounts.
Mhm.
I just read a book that I thought was really interesting, and I'm interested in it. And it's called Profit First. Have you heard of that?
No.
I have not.
Okay, well, you might want to read it. It's very
Okay.
interesting. And basically, he had some very successful businesses. I'll be real fast so I don't spend the whole time. But he had very successful businesses, he thought. he sold them. He made a lot of money.
Mhm.
Then he had a lot of money, so he helped charities.
Right.
And he ended up with nothing. And then when he looked back at his businesses, he was like, oh, the only reason they were successful is because I sold them. I basically sold someone something that was going to have to be fixed.
Right.
He wasn't really that successful.
Right.
So he developed a plan where your first dollars come in, you pay them to yourself, and then you open up like 12 bank accounts, and each one goes to a different, what you're allotting it for, with your taxes and your business, like for purchasing large purchases, payroll, all that
Payroll
kind of
accounts,
stuff.
operating accounts.
So, and basically he's like, okay, open these accounts at banks that don't charge,
Right.
and open them where
exactly.
you can't easily get to that money.
And another First United here in town, they actually have a small business that's doesn't charge a service fee or anything.
Cool.
I've been doing business with them for a long time, but they do have that, and I do see companies that do like to keep their payroll checking accounts, and then they have their general or their operating account. Now, the payroll account's real good to keep separate if you're a little bit larger and you got a lot of payroll and you're doing direct deposits and stuff, because that money has to be in there before they'll process the payroll on the other end. So this way it kind of keeps it separate from other checks coming in. So yes, I have seen that. And our main thing is that we see is just commingling. Let's keep our business all.
It's so hard to do so as a business owner.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Especially when you're in a hurry, you just grab
I
a
know.
card
And then sometimes I'll see a thing come through and I'll be like, oh, I gave them the wrong card.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that it's the end of the world, but I didn't mean to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are ways around that too. If you've done something, we can show you how you can pay yourself back or pay
Yeah.
the company back.
That's
And that leaves paper trails. So then if you do get audited and stuff, it makes it a lot easier,
Yeah.
because the IRS does not like to see it commingled, and they will throw up their hands.
And even though you have all your bank statements, I think they still like the physical receipts.
right.
Because say you go to Walmart and you put $100 on it and say, oh, I bought toner for the business. Well, they want to see that receipt, because if it has
Right.
$60 in toner and $40 in makeup, they're going to be like,
Yeah.
that wasn't all business. So it's still a good idea to keep those physical receipts, even though I know a lot of us fall back on just the bank statements, but especially businesses where it's an individual items you're buying all together.
Yes.
Like if it's like you're starting your business and use a lawyer to set it up, that's obviously not. It's going to be a business expense, but those that can be muddled,
Yes.
those are really.
And there are also, the IRS does approve, it'll be, I say IRS approved scanners, so you can scan and put it in your computer.
Yeah.
So if you get audited, because after time, some of those receipts fade.
Yeah.
They do. I found that. I
Right,
go to put them and file them, and I'm like, oh, I can barely even read what this is.
right.
So,
So there are those that the IRS will accept, so
Okay.
you don't have to actually have the physical.
Yeah.
They will accept the scanned in
okay,
ones.
good. I'll
Yeah.
have to. I think I do have a scanner. I don't know if it's IRS approved, so I'll have to
They
look.
used to say, and now that's something we may check back up on. They may accept more, but I know
Yeah.
in the beginning they needed to be IRS. But if you don't want a bunch of papers, that's something to check into, so
Yeah.
that, because on our end, we're not requiring to see those. We're trusting that everything that goes through basically goes through this account, unless you made notes on the check and the footnotes and
Right.
stuff like that, so that we can tell, okay, well, this doesn't, it's just not a part of the business or whatever, and we rely on them, but we do explain, you're the one that if you
That
get
show.
audited, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to produce it,
Yeah.
so.
So, what about this? Just brings me to another question for businesses. What about like gas mileage? Like I use that Mile IQ, right? So I tell it which is
Those are
which
very
is-
good, yes.
But you
Yeah.
still need gas receipts or majority. Is that right?
No, because
Oh,
you're
okay.
gonna either go by mileage or
Yeah.
actual expenses.
Well, okay.
If you do actual expenses, you will need the receipt.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go by mileage,
Then it's by
It's-
percent by
It,
mile.
it's real good to have one of those programs on your phone, because instead of spending all day going through Google and find out how many miles or
Yeah.
trying to remember to write it down,
Right.
you can actually, I think you just click the your own business run and then
Yeah,
click
it
it
lets you
off.
choose. You can swipe one way is business, one way is personal.
Right, and I
Yeah.
believe those will all download into an Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheet. You can just print in or email it to your accountant and it's right there.
Okay.
Then if you get audited, you have the backup.
Yeah. You're just required to show a log of that
Yes.
mileage.
Well, that's awesome because sometimes, you go to the gas station and you're kind of in a hurry and then it says see cashier. And I'm like, I don't have time to go in and wait in line and see the cashier. I really wanted that physical receipt. And
Yeah.
those are the ones that fade the fastest too, by the way.
Yeah, they do.
They really do. And that would be where you would need it when you're doing actual expenses.
Okay.
A lot of times I steer more towards the mileage because for a small business, it's usually more beneficial depending on what kind. If you have a business and you have a bunch of trucks, it's going to be, you're going to want to take actual.
Yeah.
But for most small business owners, the mileage is usually more beneficial.
Yeah, like me. It's just my car.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I know you get really busy around tax time. So for you, what is the definition of busy at tax time? When does it start?
I would probably start
Mid-February?
mid-February. You know what's weird is because I'm going into my 19th year,
Okay.
and it all depends on the economy and what's going on. Because sometimes they will walk in the door on that February 1st because their W-2s are out by January 31st and want their money. And then some years you're going, does anybody know tax season started? So there's never, but usually it kicks up, 1st of February, mid-February, and then through that we do a lot of extensions too,
Yeah.
which gives the business till September and October, so we tend to gear up again for that. And but then we keep busy year round by doing financials and books and guiding our clients, because we try to, instead of just being like somebody that's just going to do your tax return and that's it, they don't want to be.
You're not at a desk at Walmart or something,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Where someone comes out and sits down and
Right, we're not one of
do
those.
this.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to actually help plan your future for you. And what I see in that it's not taught in our school systems anymore, you can either take that $5 a week and start you a savings account or some kind of account, or even if you've got $1,000 to start with and the financial advisor divest the stuff or whatever, and you'll be amazed if you start at that young of age, by the time your retirement age, you should be able to retire comfortably.
Right.
If you have a good financial advisor. They don't teach this in school. I don't understand why they.
A lot of schools, I don't even think they learn how to balance a checkbook. Not that we use checks much anymore.
Exactly.
But they don't learn how to keep
Exactly.
track of what's in there.
Exactly, because they just call the bank or everything's electronic and it hits automatically. And yes, they don't teach how to balance those out anymore where they used to years ago. And I remember we even had school project. Of course, it wasn't real money we invested, but they allowed us so much money. And we took the stock market and you invested the money and you learned how to invest the money in the stock market. Not that you physically did,
Yeah.
but you just kept track of it. And you opened a newspaper. This was before
Right.
that, and got what the stock paid that day or what, and you were to keep track of everything. And at the end, you would see if you gained or lost. So they actually taught you how to invest yourself
Uh-huh.
in the stock market and not relying on a
Right.
financial advisor. But see, the financial advisors are very good these days. They want to hear your input too.
Yes.
So if you get a good one, they're going to
Learn your goals and how
Sure.
soon do you want to retire?
Yes.
What are your goals and all that?
Stuff like that, yes. But I'm just really surprised they do not teach. Just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean that it's going to be there tomorrow. And I see them go blow, and then this comes up, and they have no,
Yeah.
or something happens to their job, and they have no. Because it's always good to keep at least 6 months of your bills as in the bank at a savings account, so in case you do get laid off or whatever, then you can survive for 6 months on that. So there's things like that they just don't teach anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even think they taught that when I was in school. And that's been a while ago.
They did when I was in school.
Yeah.
Of course, we had the old-fashioned, back when I started accounting is when we had the ledgers behind us. I mean, when I before I actually, it was an after-school job.
Uh-huh.
And I was interested in that, and they let us go to school half a day and we worked half a day.
That's neat.
Yeah, VOE or some kind
Yes.
of program,
Okay,
security
yes.
training. And I worked, I mean, the ledgers and everything, if somebody paid something, you'd have to go behind and write it in, handwrite it in, and everything else like that. So.
Yes. I used to work for an attorney, and part of the job was when people gave you a check, it had to go in the right account. You had to write it in the ledger.
Right.
You know, everything had to be handwritten, very exact, what it was,
Right.
what it was for, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
But I don't think they do it that way anymore.
No. It's all computerized. It's all computerized these days. And see, I think it's a good thing that I actually learned the way I learned, because if you ask these kids these days, they don't know that. They can tell you, well, that's what the computer says, you know, just like checking out at the grocery store, too, that they can't count change back like they did in the old days. And if the electricity's out, they can't give you the change back. They don't know how to count it back.
A lot of times now they don't. I don't pay with a lot of cash, but they don't even try.
Right.
It's they hand you your money and drop your change in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, used to be we had to count.
Count it back.
Yeah.
And it
that's-
had to come up right, you know, where someone would call you on it.
Right, exactly. So,
I was returning something at a clothing store, and so I returned it. I was at the return desk, and she goes to give me my money. It was just one item of clothing, and she's like, 100, 200, 300. I'm like looking at the people behind me in line, 600, 700, 800. Then she gives me some change to equal 1,000. I said, wait, what? That's not my money. She said, oh, I put it in, the number in, I added an extra zero. And so she was like, whatever she did, because I'm not sure, but because I was returning something, but she gave me almost $1,000 change. Instead of up to 100, she
Right.
gave whatever it was. Anyway, however that worked. The person behind me said, I would have taken that money and kept walking. I said,
And a lot of people would have
No.
these days.
I mean, that was terrible.
Yeah.
And it was just an easy mistake.
Yeah.
Like literally, if you're busy, anybody can make that kind of mistake.
right.
But the reason, because she was counting out to me, if she had just handed it to me, I might not even realize that I got out
Yeah.
of there with almost $1,000. So anyway, so yeah, it's really important that that people understand how to best.
Behind the scenes
Yeah,
of
behind the
stuff
scenes.
instead of just punching numbers in.
Yeah.
Because, and there's sometimes benefits by knowing the little, you know, because there's always loopholes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that always changes, and then they close, and then we find other loopholes, so,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Right.
Every
I know
time
when
they,
the new taxes came out, was it like a few years ago? When like a huge book of the tax laws changed.
That was
Yeah.
probably when Trump took over. He
2016.
changed.
Okay, so we're there
2017.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he changed a lot of the standard deductions and stuff, which actually made it where there weren't as many long forms anymore, but because you actually got more money because it like doubled of what the standard deduction was, and which was actually more fair for the southern states than it was for the
Really?
northern, because the northern states were getting great big old benefits because they could itemize, because they were paying state, local, and everything else taxes.
property taxes are higher.
Right, so it let us go up instead of just taking a little bitty $6,000
Right.
deduction or whatever. At least we got it up to 12,000 for singles, where it started, I think, in 24 for married, and so they gave them more money.
Right.
You know, so Yeah, the northern states were real mad about that, but they helped the southern states.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a lot of things, and sometimes it gets my goat the way they try to project, I guess, on that. Well, this guy's a millionaire and he's only paying 10% in taxes. You've heard that stories before, but his secretaries are paying this. They don't realize, yeah, they may be only paying 10%, but this is on money they've already paid taxes on.
Right.
They've already earned. And this is where I get into the goal. Now it's time to let your money work for you.
Right.
So they're like taking that money and they're investing it instead of holding on to it, and they're taking the risk.
Right.
Now, if you lose a whole bunch of money for taking the risk, the government only allows you $3,000 a year till when it's gone, unless you have some capital earnings that are greater to offset it. Otherwise, it could take you forever. But yet, if you gain that 10 or 20,000, they tax the whole amount right there. And it is at a capital gains tax and not at wage tax. But you got to remember, those capital gains that you invested came from a job that you already paid taxes on once.
Right.
And it just gets me because people get up in arms. They're not understanding. Okay, say all these rich people decide to quit investing in anything. Where would we all be?
Uh-huh.
I've never gotten a job from a poor man. So that's a lot of our goals, and we want to show people this is really how it works.
Right.
It's not these bits and pieces you hear here on the news. Yeah, what they're saying is true, but it's not actually true. They didn't tell you the first part of how the money was earned and already taxed.
Right.
And that doesn't take into account your local sales tax, your franchise tax from state to state, your payroll tax, any other tax that might come up depending on what business you're doing, that technically is coming out of your bottom line at the end of the day, because without having to pay that tax, that adds a little more to your profit. So you have taxes going out as a business owner constantly on anything and everything, and they're always finding something new to tax.
Yes.
It's what they do. And then every year it inflates and more and more. I mean, some stay kind of relatively the same, but you pay out a lot at the end of the day.
So let's get on more of a personal level.
Okay.
Cindy, you are Cassandra's mother.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so how long have you worked together?
2019. Yeah, probably.
No, 2020 was the first.
2020. Okay, so three full years.
Yeah, 3 full years.
We've done 3 full years together. She has a bachelor's degree in ag business,
Yeah.
and then she also has a master's in animal science. So she's had all the accounting and all that she needed for me to bring her in, and she pretty well started running on her feet
Yeah.
at that point. So it made a really good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you like being in the same office together, and you play off each other. Do you one of you specializes in something, the other one?
Well, not really
Not really.
specialized,
Okay.
but she handles more of the day-to-day payroll taxes,
Okay.
getting people set up with their TWC and all those types
Yeah.
of services and stuff that you need to pay in your quarterlies or by payroll or whatever needs to be done.
Sales tax.
Sales tax, where I've been handling more of just the strict financial books and stuff. I can do the payroll. I did it for probably 15 years straight, every day type deal, but I kind of let her take that over, and I've gone back to just the financial end and more of the LLCs, S corps and corporations. She can do them, but she does more of the LLCs and the personal returns. Right. And I work with the personal returns that have LLCs that are flowing through them, so I can see both and see where things need to be adjusted. So,
Well, that's really neat. And you're here in Denison.
yes.
And have you been here in Denison this whole time?
I worked 17 years for another gentleman in the town
Okay.
before I opened my
Okay.
business. Yes.
Okay.
So, and I'm going on, I think, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And you live, your office is in this sweet little house right across from Heritage Park, right?
yeah. Yes.
And I didn't even know, do I knock on the door? Because I didn't know if this was actually your home. Because sometimes accountants, it is
Right.
their home.
Right. We have a lot of people, even our delivery people, still knock on the door, and they think it's just habit. You see a door, it looks like a house, and your brain just tells you you're not. But no, you just come in, the door's open.
Yeah.
We're 9 to 5, Monday through Friday during normal tax season for extension times. But in the other times, we work 8 to 5, and we're only a half a day on Friday.
Oh, that's nice.
That gives the employees some time to do whatever they need to do, and they don't feel like they're so rushed out, but they still get their 40 hours in. I just kind of let them decide on if they wanted to do that or if they would rather just do the 8 hours a day. But they'll say, no, we'll do 9 for 4 days and half a day off.
Right.
So it feels like they have a little longer weekend. At least they get the shopping over with that they would have had it done on Saturday with everybody else.
Yeah, those things that would give you actually Saturday to do something you want to do. You can't get those taken out.
Right, especially if you have kids that have sports going on and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, well, do you have anything else that you would like to share that we didn't talk about?
Well,
I think we covered the most of everything that we do. And like I told you on the phone, I mean, it's up to however, if you come to us, if you just want us to do your financials or just the payroll or just the taxes, we pretty much customize our services to what you want.
kind of like an olive carte.
Yeah, olive carte.
That if we, or we can bundle it together, or you can do olive carte. If you only want us to do your tax returns, then you want to do your own financials. But like I said, with the banking, and if you intend to get loans and stuff, sometimes you could probably make more money doing what you're, like I have a lot of chiropractors, and they can make more an hour than sitting there trying to figure the books.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's worth it, a lot of times for people to just pay us to do it and they don't have a headache.
And keeping all the expenses in there too and not forgetting something, since we download it straight versus if you bring us a spreadsheet, no, I forgot to put this or that.
Right.
And we just a lot of times download stuff straight for the bank, so if everything goes through that bank account, we can catch every expense there is out there, and then you're not minimizing the amount of deductions that you get then, or business expenses that you get that way.
And that saves a lot in key pension rates
Yeah.
too, because those numbers are downloaded directly from the bank, and then you get key pension and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And then when it comes to the tax part of thing that we do, that I know, like if you're an individual using like H&R Block or some of the online tax pro stuff, which it is easy to use it when you have one or two things. The more stuff you get, the more complicated it gets. But also if you're ever to receive a letter from the IRS that you don't understand, that they're saying either we've changed it because of this or whatever, you can always bring that stuff back into us, and we will always look at it and help you respond to it. And we're not going to charge you another $100 on top of it just to write a letter or fix anything that may have either didn't give us the information or whatever. We will work with you to help to understand those IRS letters, because a lot of times, sometimes they're really nothing. Sometimes the IRS has made a mistake and you have to point it out to them, but without knowing the language of it, I know a lot of our clients come in like freaked out. Because anytime the IRS contacts you, you're like, no, I don't like that. They can like take all my stuff away from me, but we can get that stuff straightened out and handled, and we don't charge you an arm and a leg to do those things.
Right, because usually if we've done that original tax return,
yeah,
we just back it up. If it's something you can just bring into us, we will charge you a little for that.
Yeah.
If it's something, just a letter to the IRS to clear something up or whatever, or they say they didn't receive an extension or whatever, we always have proof of all that stuff, and we can send them letters and usually get a lot of those. Maybe a lot of your penalties waived, that you would just say, I'm throwing my arms up and I'll just pay it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's,
Just
we
stuff
try to
like,
help them with stuff like that.
Well, that's nice.
because I know some other places do that, and some other places don't do that. And then it depends on, I know with the H&R Block stuff, it depends on what package you pay for. What you get out of it.
Right.
They always add the little extra fees on top just to hike the price up.
Yeah,
So-
in the general sense of even the individual tax returns, because they say, okay, we're gonna prepare for $50. Time you through and you bought this, you have to choose $300. The main thing, we just charge the flat fee. The only thing that's extra here will be if you use our banking products. We can do those just like H&R Block, so that you can get your money a little faster and get a depositing account. But we can do directly through the IRS also and get it deposited directly into your account. And that is of no charge. But if you use the banking product where you want to split it, where we get our money out of your return and the other, then it's whatever. We don't charge a fee for it, but the bank does.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. So on a normal basis, we're not any more expensive than H&R Block is at all. And usually
On
we're
average, we actually undercut them or lower.
we're a little cheaper.
Yeah.
So don't let the wording or whatever of our business name think, oh my gosh, they're expensive, you know.
Yeah.
But we can help you more, and we're going to sit down and guide you more than what just one time a year.
Right, because you're there to help for continually through the year, not just
Yeah.
when the taxes are due.
Yeah, and we're here all year
And
round.
we're open all year round, and we don't close down for, weeks or months at a time.
Yeah,
And it's always the same two of us in here doing taxes. Not, you might have one year and then they've went to somewhere else or no longer do it. It's pretty consistent. So if I did your tax return last year, then I will most likely do your tax return this year and the following year and the following year. Or if there's a problem, you can come in and I can explain either, hey, this is what it is, or that's what it's not.
right.
And you don't have to worry about the office being closed for 3 months and you can't get a hold of anybody. You
Right.
have to call corporate and then they have no clue because they're not the ones that physically did it.
Yeah,
So it's just more of that, it's smaller atmosphere
yeah,
than large corporation. Our name sometimes portrays more,
We're like a franchise. That's
yeah.
Those are, I think your H&R Block's a lot. Some of them have gone to franchise.
Yeah.
So one main accountant may own 3 or 4 of them, and then there's of course the ones that are still owned by H&R Block.
Yeah.
You get a lot of turnover and stuff.
Yeah.
And I have found that a lot of people like going to the same person every year.
yeah, because they get to know you and you feel comfortable asking questions.
Mhm.
Exactly like that, and you're not exposed to a lot of people having access to your personal
Yeah.
information.
Or if you have a major change coming up the following year, like you're selling property or death in the family and it's causing money changes, you can call us and be like, hey, this is what's happening. How is it going to affect me so I can better prepare or know what I need to set aside and I'm not hit with a big bill at the end of the year I wasn't expecting.
Right.
So those are things that you can call and ask us about, and we give you the information, and we have your taxes. We worked with you before. We got an idea of what your income normally is, so we can figure out where it potentially could end up at by the end of the year.
And if it's something that's large, whether you need to probably know it, go ahead and make some prepayments so you don't run into some penalties and interest on not paying throughout the year instead of just paying the once a year. So.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really enjoy having the opportunity to bring your business forward and help people get to know you a little better.
Well, I appreciate your coming
Yes.
very much. Yes.